always afraid when I go first. First of all, I'm following Doug, so he set the bar pretty high. So I've got that to deal with. The other thing is, it's first thing in the morning. A lot of people decided it's too early to show up. And in some of us who did show up, it's too early to stay awake. So I want to make sure you get the point of my talk from the very beginning. So if you do nod off, you've already gotten the point. So here's the point. For those of you sitting over here, let me just turn this around. Here's the point. It's in code, or Yiddish. It's in Yiddish. Here's the point. Alt is gut. And I'll turn it back over here so you can all see it. Alt is gut. This is the only thing I've ever taught since in 1981 when I was ordained. I was, empowered to teach whatever it was I was going to teach. This is the only thing that I know. It means everything is God. That's it. Everything is God. Goddess, we're going to talk about that because the whole awakening in the Jewish tradition, when we get to it, it's called awakening to Shekhinah, the divine mother. So we're going to come to goddess in a second. But in Yiddish, it's Alt is Gott. Everything is the divine. That's the only thing I have to teach. And that's all you have to remember. So this is in sort of the abstract. Everything is God. But that includes you. So I want to make it more personal. So in the handout, everyone should have the handout. And Nancy was, I don't know if Nancy did it, but whoever on the staff was gracious enough to copy it and then fold it. Copying it is one thing. The machine does that. But then somebody had to fold it. That's the hard part. So thank you for whoever did that. So on the back, there is this song from Rabbi Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl. And he got his dates. He died in 1798. And he's called the Chernobyl Rebbe. Rebbe is, there's rabbis, those are teachers, and then there's Rebbes, that's the equivalent of guru. And he was the Rebbe of Chernobyl, and he's famous for lots of things, but the only thing I remember is this song. And the song was originally in Yiddish. It was translated into English, which is how we're going to do it, by my friend and teacher, Rabbi David Zeller. And it's the same point, Alt is Gott, but it's now about you and I as individuals. So I'm going to teach it to you. We're going to unpack it and move through this, the theme of the conference, and do it in a Jewish way. So I'm going to break it down into you can't really call them verses, but we'll call them verses, the 3 verses. All Hasidic, because he's a Hasidic Rebbe, all Hasidic music starts with yai-da-da-da-da, one of those things, like in Fiddler on the Roof, right? The Hasidim thought that words get in the way. And so they thought you could have music that had no words. And it would be like babies babbling. I have like an 8-month-old grandson now. I've got a 7.5-year-old grandson, but now I have an 8-month-old grandson. And, well, to be honest, my son, who's a PhD professor of English, he also babbles. But I no longer know what he's talking about because he talks in academic language, and I don't know what he's saying anymore. But my 8-month-old, are we taping this? He's not going to watch it. But my 8-month-old grandson, he babbles, and he babbles for the joy of babbling. He just loves the sounds that he can make. And the Hasidim created this thing, they called it nigunim. It just means melodies, but it was just babbling for the joy of babbling. Like when the Bible says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. We're going to fix the Lord thing in a little bit as we get into this, because that's not what the Bible says. But that's how we translate it into standard English. Make a joyful noise unto the divine. The Hasidim thought it was this sort of adult babbling. When Jesus says, be like little children, we go, what does that mean? And in the Bible, he goes, should we go back into the womb? No, you idiot. I mean, what is wrong with you people? No, it was like to become like little children, to just explode with joy at the fact of being alive. So that's what the Chernobyl Rebbe wants us to do in the whole song, you'll see, but certainly in the beginning. So I'm going to give you verse by verse, and we'll go over it until you get it, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. So, no, I'm kidding. if it takes you that long, we're in big trouble. Okay. Yai did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yai did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yai did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. So that's the first verse. You should try it as if you meant it. Right? So let's do it again with a little more enthusiasm, as opposed to yeah, oh yeah, I'm alive. Right? So let's try again. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. Okay. Now we'll put a little percussion into it, because they're always, you can even stand up if you want, but we'll hold that a little bit later. But let's try the percussion. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. That's an amazing statement. It took the universe 13.8 billion years to get around to being you. Right? 13.8 billion years. And now it's you. That's an amazing thing. To get up in the morning and go, oh, it's so wrong. Right? Now, I don't know if you were staying here last night, but there were these tornadoes blowing through. Right? So in Tennessee, where I live, we have tornadoes blowing through once in a while, and I just wait them out. Right? The sirens go off. I go outside. I want to be the person with the smartphone going, look at this. There's a tornado coming through my house. God, look at this. Because you get on, the nightly news. Look, I'm going around. And I'm hoping for a little dog named Toto to be with me. But here, luckily, there was a guy staying in the building with me. And he was smarter than me. He said, let's go to the basement. And I said, we have a basement? Okay, where the heck is it? So we spent some time in the basement. And, it blew over. So I was happy to be alive. So I got up in the morning, and nothing had blown away. I didn't even see any tree damage, because I walked this morning. Was there? Well, but nothing, at least nothing major. Hopefully nobody was hurt. So, you go, wow, I'm alive. And what a wild world it is with tornadoes and these storms and all this amazing stuff. So the song starts out with this amazing affirmation, or this powerful affirmation of the amazing fact that you exist. I'm alive. We started last night with the Shabbat candles. In Judaism, you end the Sabbath with a candle that's got 6 wicks. And you hold your fingers out to the light, and you get them close enough till you can see the blood behind your fingernails. And the idea is to remind yourself that you are alive. It's sort of like Frankenstein, when he throws a switch and the monster comes alive. It's alive! It's that amazing thing. So he starts out, the Chernobyl Rebbe starts out with this, calling you to this wondrous moment that you are alive. But then in the second verse, I don't know if you want to say he troubles it or he questions it at least. So the second verse is, and who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am, and then he's going to answer it. But before he answers it, let's make sure we get the question. It's not, and who's this aliveness? I am. That's not what he's saying. Who is this aliveness I am? He's sort of channeling, well, you can't channel him because he's a couple hundred years earlier, but he's channeling in reverse Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj. I don't know who they are, but I just want to improve. I just want to impress you with my capacity to say those names, right? It took me a long time to learn how to say Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj. I don't like, also, Pratityat Samutpada. I like to just say those things just to impress Buddhists and Hindus that I can say them. So, well, you try it. It's not so easy. So, you know, they're telling you the same thing. Ramana and Nisargadatta, they're telling you the same thing, that you're not who you think you are. You are a manifesting, a unique, precious, never been before, never will be again, manifesting of something else. Something singular, something non-dual, but you're not an isolated being. So that's what the Chernobyl Rebbe is asking you. First, you say, I'm alive. This is amazing. This incarnation of whatever the heck it is, this incarnation of whatever, is an amazing thing. I want to celebrate it. But who is it really? Right? Rami is just a story. My parents are dead, but when my parents were alive, in their house, they had a portrait of me when I was in the Navy. Now, I have no recollection of ever being in the Navy. I know, as an adult, I was in the Air Force. They have a portrait of me as a toddler in the Navy. I was wearing my little Navy dress blues. I don't know where I got them. I guess the Navy was really hard up for people, so they took kids, little toddlers. But I don't remember that. But they have all these stories about me before I have any memory of them. I'm a product of those stories. I'm a Jew because they told me I was a Jew, right? Everything I know about myself is a product of stories that other people told me about myself, and then later, product of stories I told myself about myself. And that's the I am that's alive. But is that all I am? Am I only these stories? So Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and earlier the Chernobyl Rebbe says, no, that's not it. So who is this aliveness? And then he answers the question. And he says, if not the Holy Blessed One. And it's hard to sing that by itself. So I'll back it up. We'll sing the second verse, and then I'll add that to it. So he says, and who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am, if not the Holy Blessed One? That's who you really are, the Holy Blessed One, or what he calls aliveness. It's chayut in Hebrew. That's who you really are. So let's just celebrate that and then go deeper into this. So now, because you were the only one bold enough to stand up, now everyone can stand up. And you don't need your notes, you don't need anything, you just need, I spent 10 years trying to be a Zen Buddhist, but I'm not. And so we're not doing the sound of one hand clapping, which in this setting would probably mean slapping the person next to you in the head. So we're going to do the sound of two hands clapping and see if we can put this all together. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. Yeah, I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? Who is this aliveness I am, if not the Holy Blessed One? Okay, thank you. So that's it. That's the whole point. That's the message of the spiritual path. That's what we're awakening to. Not as a song, but as a lived reality, a felt reality, right? We're talking about it, but we're trying to awaken as it. And so the theme of the conference is a shared journey, the heart of the spiritual path. But is it a path? Is it a journey? So Krishnamurti said no. Right? He said truth is a pathless land. So I don't know what he meant by that. I'll tell you what I think it means. The reason truth is a pathless land is because if you say there's a path, it means it isn't here. It implies I got to go somewhere to get it. Right? And I have to go somewhere to get it. Not only does it mean distance, it also means time. Religion is all about distance and time. Right? That's how they keep us from ever achieving it, because once you achieve it, you stop paying. Right? Right? Once you're enlightened, you know, the Buddha has a story about the raft. Once you've taken the raft across the sea to the island, why you keep schlepping the raft around? I don't think the Buddha says schlep. I don't know what the Sanskrit word is for schlep, but whatever it is, whatever he said, you don't have to carry the raft, right? But religion is based on the fact that you got to keep, you know, paying, you got to keep coming, you got to keep doing whatever the leaders say. So they keep moving the goalpost, right? Oh, you get it after you die, or in some future lifetime, or whatever it is. But is there a path? Is it really a journey? So Krishnamurti said, I think Krishnamurti said no. Way before Krishnamurti said no, Jesus said no. So I'm going to read this, well, I'm going to paraphrase it, from the Gospel of Thomas, Logia 3. If you haven't read the Gospel of Thomas, definitely you should read the Gospel of Thomas. If you only read one Gospel this year, make it the Gospel of Thomas. I don't know if it's available in the bookstore, but it's 25% off if it is. Is it is? Yeah, we have it in the bookstore? All right, definitely. All right. Logia 3, the Gospel of Thomas is just sayings by Jesus. No narrative, right? No story, no. Okay. So Jesus says, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will get there before you do. If they say to you it's in the sea, then the fish will get there before you do. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and outside of you, which means right here and now. Right? That's worth crucifixion if you're a religious person. Get rid of that guy right away. All right? It's not good for the bottom line. But Jesus wasn't the first one to say that. Moses says that before Jesus. In fact, Jesus is actually paraphrasing Moses. If you look at the book of Deuteronomy, most of which you shouldn't look at, but if you do, in chapter 30 in verse 12 of Deuteronomy, Moses says, he's talking about truth, revelation. Moses says, it's not in the sky, right? Jesus is paraphrasing Moses. It's not in the sky that you should say, how can I go up into the sky and bring it down so I can live it, understand it and live it? Who's going to do that for me? And then Moses says, and it's not across the sea. Because then you're going to say, how can I get across the sea so I can live it and do it? I'm going to use these things as excuses. It's too hard. So Moses says, the word, the truth, is very close to you. It's in your mouth and on your heart that you may do it. The same idea, right? Moses, then Jesus, same idea. I think it goes back even further. I think God said it. Now, when I read the Bible, I don't read the Bible literally. I think reading the Bible, Jews don't read the Bible literally. Educated Jews don't read the Bible literally. And by educated, I'm not talking about people who are liberal. I grew up Orthodox. If you read the Bible literally in the Orthodox world and you're over 8 years old, you're dumb. They consider you illiterate because that's not how we're taught to read the Bible. We're taught to interpret the Bible. We're taught to read the Bible in all kinds of very, you could say radical, you could say innovative. It depends, how you want to interpret the technique. But we don't take it literally. It's the word, and we don't take it literally in the Orthodox world because it's the Word of God. And you can't limit God to English grammar or to Hebrew grammar or any of that stuff. So anyway, in the book of Genesis, in verse 12, you get the beginning of Judaism. And that's where the Lord calls to Abraham and Sarah. So let's deal with this word Lord right away. I want to thank John for the lovely calligraphy and for walking away with the markers. But I don't think we need them because we have. No, I think I put it in the. Well, let me borrow it anyway. Thank you, sir. So when we read in the Bible, and I know you guys can't see this. I'm going to try to fix that in a minute. How can I do this so that... Can you see it? You can't see it. You want to move over here? Okay. So when you look when we read in the Bible and you see the word Lord, what you're really reading is the Hebrew. Let me just turn this here. The 4 letters in Hebrew. It's Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. They're in the handout, but I wrote them vertically, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But it's the 4 letters Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And these come from Exodus 3, where Moses meets God in the burning bush, and Moses says, "What's your name?" In the Bible, when they ask for your name, they're asking for your true nature. And God first says to Moses, Ehia asher ehia, which most Bibles translate as I am that I am. It's the I am. Ehia means it's the imperfect, first person imperfect form of the verb to be or to happen. It's like eyeing, forever eyeing. Right? There's no present tense for the verb to be in Hebrew. So you might say, so it's eyeing. It's just awkward. So in English they say I am. But that's very static. The 4-letter name for God, which we usually write like YHVH, is a verb. It's not a noun. It's not a proper noun. It's a verb. It means the happening. So the universe is this happening. It's the happening of the YHVH. It's the happening of the happening that happens as everything, right? Or what the Chernobyl Rebbe calls chayut, or aliveness. So this aliveness somehow communicates to Abram and Sarai, before they're called Abraham and Sarah, and says to them, get out of town. This is the beginning of Judaism. So God says to Abraham and Sarah, get out of your country. So just get the order here. He says, get out of your country, get away from your tribe, your kinfolk, your culture, and get out of your parents' house and go to a land that I will show you. Now, the word that they use for get out, I won't write it all down for you, but you can just follow this. The word they use for get out is lech lecha, L-E-C-H, lech lecha, L-E-C-H-A. L-E-C-H means to walk, and L-E-C-H-A means to yourself. Now, if you pick up an English Bible, it'll say walk to this place, like they're making a journey from point A to point B. But the Hebrew doesn't say that. The story says that. They walk to a place, and then there's battles, and the whole Bible is how they get to this place, and they displace all the people that are there. That's the history of, humanity, but certainly in the Bible. But that's not what Genesis 12 is talking about. From the rabbinic point of view, it's an inner journey. And the rabbis say not only does the language, lech lecha, tell you walk inward, the order of the journey tells you. You're walking out of your country, away from your culture, your kinfolk, and away from your parents' house. The rabbis say that's backwards. If you were taking a physical journey from point A to point B, where's the first place you leave? Home. Then you leave your neighborhood, and then you leave your country. So they said that can't be what they're talking about in the Bible. What aliveness is calling you to do on the spiritual journey is to free yourself from attachments. And it starts with the easiest ones and ends with the hardest ones. So it's not that any of them are easy, but it's easier to free yourself from your nationality. Right? Because you can move to Canada. Not so easy anymore, but after the next election, many of us may try. You never know. But you can change your nationality. It's not impossible. It's not that difficult. It's more difficult to change your ethnicity or your culture. And it's even more difficult to free yourself from all the crazy things that your parents taught you. Right? That takes years and years of therapy. But the journey, if we're going to call it that, the journey is a journey of liberation from all the narratives that define you. So you start out with the Chernobyl Rebbe's song, I Am Alive. We're celebrating the narratives. How amazing. 13.8 billion years of story now is me. And then he says, but who am I really? I'm not the narratives. I'm not Jewish, really, right? My story is Jewish. But I'm not Jewish. I'm not a male. I'm not a cisgendered white male Jewish guy who's got son and grandsons and all this. That's part of my story, but who am I really? If you strip all of that away, Hinduism, neti, you get it's not this, it's not that. You strip all of that away, I am aliveness. And that's where the journey takes you. I am the Holy Blessed One, or what he calls chayut, aliveness. That's where it goes. And because aliveness is everywhere, it's pathless. Because there's nowhere to go to get it. It's just a matter of freeing ourselves where we are from the stories we tell ourselves while we're anywhere we happen to be. Does that make sense? Yes. So I'm putting this in a Jewish frame, but it's really not Jewish. It's just the core, I think, of the spiritual path, if we're going to call it path, the spiritual journey. But it's a journey that goes nowhere. It's a path that doesn't go anywhere. But then, like we heard from Doug last night, what's the point? What's the result? How do you know you've done it? And you know you've done it because in Genesis 12 tells you. Genesis 1 tells you, here's the path, strip yourself of all the narratives. And then for what purpose? Genesis 12:3 tells you to be, in different translations, but basically to be a blessing to all the families of the earth.
Hear, hear.
Right? All of them. Doesn't say humans. It says all the families of the earth. And we know from Genesis 2, humans are created to serve and protect the natural world. Genesis 1, we're here to screw it up. Right? Western civilization is built on Genesis 1. Different parts of the Bible are written by different people. So people who hate the world wrote Genesis 1. People who love the world wrote Genesis 2. But, I mean, one way to talk about the only thing that saves the humanity is we have to make this, from in biblical terms, the shift from Genesis 1 to Genesis 2. But whether we do that or not, who knows? But in Genesis 2, it says that we're drawn out of the earth, we're earthlings, and we're here to serve and protect the earth and all of our families. Genesis 12:3 says we're here to be a blessing to all the families of the earth. That's how the journey manifests in the body. Does that make sense? You follow that? Okay. That takes us, so actually let me stop for just 1 second. Questions on that to make sure we're clear, because then I'm going to go into the handout. No? We're all set? We get it? Okay. So let's put it in a more specifically Jewish context. I mean, Judaism's 4,000 years old. It's got tons of different interpretations. All but one of them are wrong. Luckily for you, I'm here. I tell you the right one. It's not the one I have. It's not mine. It's not mine. It comes from Rabbi Hillel, so it's thousands of years old. In Judaism, you're not worth anything until you've been dead for millennia. So you have it here on the handout. It's, I don't know how you'd figure out which page is which, but it's the one that says, in orange, a Roman soldier approached. So this is a famous story in the rabbinic, the anthology of rabbinic teachings called the Talmud. It says, a Roman soldier approached Shammai. Shammai is, Hillel and Shammai are the leading rabbis of their time. They're arch nemesis of one another, right? If one says black, the other says white. If one says up, the other says down. They always disagree with one another. So a Roman soldier, this is during Roman occupation. So a Roman soldier comes to Rabbi Shammai, who's working on a construction site. In those days, rabbis had jobs. You didn't make a living as a rabbi. That was considered really impossible. You had a job and you did your rabbi work as a vocation. Shammai was a construction worker, and the Roman goes to Shammai and he says, teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot and I'll convert. You don't know if he was sincere, you don't know what, but he just says it. Outraged by the audacity of the demand, Shammai grabs a builder's level and chased the man away. So Shammai just thinks this is an insult. The entire Torah is the entirety of Judaism, which is already 2,000 years old. So he grabs this heavy, level that builders use to see if the wall is even, even, flat, level, and he chases the guy away. So then the Roman goes to Hillel. He makes the same demand. Teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot, and I'll convert. And Hillel takes the guy at his word, and he says, what is hateful to you, don't do to anybody else. That is the entire Torah. All the rest is commentary. Now go and study it. This is incredibly radical. Now, a generation or so later, Jesus makes a similar point when Jesus says, do unto others as you have others do unto you, right? That's the whole of the prophets, the Torah and the prophets. But Jesus says, someone asked Jesus, what's the whole of the Torah? He says, love God and love your neighbor, right, as yourself. The difference between Jesus and Hillel is Jesus is quoting Torah. Hillel's making it up. There is no verse in Torah that says, what's hateful to you, don't do to somebody else. There is the verse, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you look at that verse in Leviticus, it's the second half of a longer verse. The first half of the verse talks about your neighbor being an Israelite. So it's just talking about love your fellow Israelites as yourself. Jesus tries to, which he does with many things, he tries to universalize it. But Hillel, coming before Jesus, doesn't even quote the text. He just starts with a universalist message. He says the entire frame of Judaism, the entire message of Judaism is what's hateful to you, don't do to somebody else. And then he goes further. Everything else, he says, is commentary. What's commentary? Commentary is text that elucidates the primary message. So he's saying all of Judaism, and by then there's a lot, all of Judaism, all the holidays, all the teachings, all the other books, are ways of deepening your understanding of and engagement with what we now call the Golden Rule. That's Judaism. That's it. That's half of the spiritual path that we're talking about when we talk about the spiritual path in the context of Judaism. I mean, there's Kabbalah and there's all these things, but that's like, if you really study Kabbalah, that's when you say, but it's so, it's too far away. I can't get it. How can I ever learn all this stuff? Right? It's just too complicated. But it's not, right? It's in your mouth. It's on your heart. It's what's hateful to you, don't do to somebody else. It's what Doug was talking about last night. Except if you only focus on what's hateful to you, don't do to somebody else, you're going to burn out. If you're just about being of service to others, the danger is you become self-righteous. Well, you become a prig. Right? Because it becomes totally egotistical. I mean, karma yoga, as Doug mentioned last night, karma yoga is service yoga, but karma yoga is recognizing that, depending on who my deity is, it's service to my deity, and I see my deity, I see David as Krishna. I'm serving Krishna by serving David. I'm not serving David because I'm a great servant. You know what I'm saying? It's not egoic. It's selfless. Our service has got to be selfless with a small s, selfless, or can't say self-full, I don't know what you'd say. It's got to come from the self, but the big capital S, self, right? It's got to come from the aliveness that I am, and not from the storied ego that I am. When our service when my service is coming from the greater reality, and I am a vehicle of that, then I can do this tirelessly, and my ego is never in the way, and it's never about me. But when I don't come from there, and I'm just coming from my ego, then it becomes dangerous, I think. And I certainly get burned out. So if I'm only following Hillel, and my Judaism is just what's hateful to you, don't do to anybody else, I've only got half the message. So what I call one-foot Judaism needs another text. And the other text is on the bottom of that page. It's just one line. It comes a few centuries later from another rabbi whose name is Abaye. And Abaye says that there are always 36 people on the planet. It doesn't say Jews, it just says people. There are always 36 people on the planet awake to Shekhinah. So let's unpack Shekhinah. So Judaism is a patriarchal religion. It's male-dominated religion. Now, God, in the Bible, the Yud-He Vav-He, is not Lord, right? Lord is masculine. Lord, or in Hebrew, Adonai, Lord is a euphemism for the unpronounceable Yud-He Vav-He. Right? You cannot say the name of God, the four-letter name of God. It's literally unpronounceable, because it's just four consonants. So you got to say something, because it's always in the text. So the rabbis came up with euphemisms, and there are a number of them. But one of the ones they like the best is Lord. The rabbis are all men. Their society is totally male-dominated. If they're looking for a euphemism for God, and someone says, "How about Lord?" Whoa. You can hear them go, you can hear their little brains going, "Whoa, that's a good one." So we always create God in our own image. Yes. So let's go with a God that sounds very male. And so what I'm about to say should have all the more resonance because it makes no sense in a masculine, patriarchal society like Rabbinic Judaism. They love calling their God Lord. But when they experience God, they always experience the feminine, which should make no sense. And they write about it, they talk about it in the feminine. And the only reason they would do that is because their experience of the feminine must be so overwhelmingly clearly feminine that they can't deny it. So when they hear the voice of God, they don't hear Charlton Heston's voice. They hear what they call a bat, B-A-T, kol, K-O-L. Bat, like bat mitzvah, means daughter. K-O-L means voice. They hear the daughter's voice. Right? They don't hear the son's voice. In Christianity, it's totally male. But in Judaism, when they hear the voice of God, they hear the daughter's voice. Now, if this were a different talk and we had more time on this, the daughter is Chokhmah, wisdom, and she's the first manifesting of the divine, and she's how the divine communicates with us. And she's another name for Shekhinah. So Abaye talks about awakening to Shekhinah. Shekhinah is to the unpronounceable name of God what Shakti is to Brahman. Brahman is one of the ways you can understand, one of the metaphors they use in Hinduism is Shakti is like the glittering of the diamond of Brahman, right? So just a diamond glitters, the glittering is Shakti. So it's the same thing, that Shekhinah is the way God happens in the world. When you hear the divine, you hear the daughter's voice. When you encounter the divine, you encounter the divine feminine. You follow that? So Abaye says, there are always 36 people on the planet who are awake to the divine, but he uses the word Shekhinah because for him, that means awakening to the divine mother, the divine feminine. Because that's what it is to be awake to God. Now, as a theory, that's nice. But if I just left you with the theory, and I think I have to stop, when, at 10? Okay, and I want to leave time for dialogue, though. I'd much rather listen to myself. But anyway, so I want to make this more practical by giving you some exercises to work with. So what Abaye says is, there has to be at least 36 people on the planet awake to this. Now, he picks the number 36 because it's a loaded number in Judaism. The word life in Hebrew is chai. In Judaism, in Hebrew, every letter has a numerical equivalent. So, because we have no Roman numerals or Arabic numerals, every letter of the alphabet does double duty as a number. So the word life is made up of two letters, chet, which is 8, and yud, which is 10. So the word life has the numerical equivalent of 18, Gesundheit, and double life is 36. So there are always 36 people who live two lives, one for their own, I am alive, verse 1 of the song, their own egoic sense. They live for that. They take care of themselves. But they live double lives as taking care of others, being a blessing to all the families of the earth. They're the Jewish equivalent of bodhisattva. And they're called hidden saints, tzadikim nistarim, and they're called lamed vavniks, which is the number 36. It means they're 36ers. And Abaye believed, that when one died, another was born. They weren't reincarnated. It's not like when His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama dies, he'll be reincarnated as the 15th. It's that when one lamed vavnik dies, another will be born, but it won't be that person's soul reincarnated, because it gets complicated, but that's not part of the system. In my understanding of the lamed vavnik system, first, 36 is just a metaphor. There could be 72, right? There could be 37. But if there's 36, the world survives. If there's 35, things get shaky. 34, it gets worse. 36. So it's the tipping point. The minimum is 36. So we're always looking for people to take on that role. The thought that you could be a Lamed Vavnik your entire life, however, seems daunting, if not impossible. So my understanding of Abaye is there are always 36 people stepping into the role of the Lamed Vavnik at any given moment. And maybe they only last a moment. And then they step out. But somebody else steps in. Now, you don't know who's stepping in and who's stepping out. You may, and Doug sort of said this last night, you may see an opportunity to be of service. You can't, like, check your phone and go, oh, no, there's 37 people. I'm cool. You don't know. You may look and your phone go, oh, shoot, there's only 35. I better get in there. You don't know. So you have to assume that we're down to 35. It's your turn. You better take charge, and at least in this moment, and do this act of service, this act of kindness, this act of justice. And then if you can't maintain it, and you did it for as long as you can, and you step out, you trust that someone else is stepping in. Right? You follow that? You step in when you can, trusting that others will step in when you step out. And not by hiring people to do it for you. That's not the idea. Though actually, now that I thought of it, maybe that would be a good thing to do. So that's what Abaye is teaching us. So how do we do that? How do we prime ourselves? So this is what I was taught. And we'll end with the Chernobyl Rebbe song in a few minutes. But to sing that every day as a reminder in the morning, to get up and go, I am alive, and then who is this aliveness? To remind yourself that you're not coming from ego, that you are a unique manifesting of this divine aliveness. Call it whatever you want. But that's who you are. But then, what else can we do? So I gave two practices on the back where the little Hebrew thing is on the bottom. So one is a mantra, and I only teach what I do, so we're limited. But one is a mantra from Deuteronomy chapter 4:35. And it's mantra practice like in any other tradition that has mantra practice. And the words are Ein Od Milvado. And it just means there's nothing else but God. Ein Od Milvado. And I use the mantra whenever, like if I'm standing in line, if I'm brushing my teeth, if I'm, looking to center myself, whenever there's an opportunity when I don't have to do anything else and my mind isn't, preoccupied, I just return to the mantra. Now, eventually, the mantra just sort of recites itself. It just pops into my head, and I'm just reciting the mantra. But mantra practice is very, very powerful. In Judaism, it's called Haggah. It means to coo like a dove, just over and over again. Ein Od Milvado, Ein Od Milvado. So I'm not going to go into mantra because you probably read about mantra and do mantra of different kinds. I'm not saying this mantra is any better than any other mantra. I chant in Sanskrit. When I was initiated into the Ramakrishna order of Vedanta Hinduism, I promised to do mantra there. So I have lots of mantra that I do, but this is just one from the Jewish tradition, if you're interested in playing with that. I want to focus on the second one that's on there. This is from Psalm 16:8. Shiviti, and then you get the four-letter name of God you can't pronounce, Lenegdi Tamid. Now, what I put in here was one of the classic rabbinic euphemisms for God called Hamakom. It means the place in which everything happens. But I don't use that. I probably shouldn't have put it in there. But the way I was taught it was Shiviti Shekhinah, that I place the divine feminine before me always. And that's how I recite it. And the idea here is to realize that whenever I see anyone, now you can do this with with trees and chairs and inanimate objects. I do it with animals and I do it with people. But whenever I see a person or an animal, I recite to myself as I'm moving closer to them, Shiviti Shekhinah lenegdi tamid. I place the divine before me always, so that I'm reminding myself that, I'm sorry, Maria. When I see Maria, I'm seeing God. Right? When I see Maria, I'm seeing Shekhinah, the Divine Mother, Divine Feminine. Now, you could use a different term. I don't care. But, I mean, Hamakom is just generic. I happen to be a devotee of the Divine Mother, so I like Shekhinah better. But that's just me. So I see Maria, and I say to myself, Shiviti Shekhinah lenegdi tamid. So I don't just see Maria, because maybe Maria cut me off in traffic as we were pulling into the parking lot. And I was like, oh, Maria, good. You know? So I don't want to see that. I want to see Shekhinah and give Maria, and engage Maria as a manifestation of the Holy Mother. You follow that? So I think I have time for this. So, and hopefully you'll want to play with me and do this together. So this is an exercise. I won't give you the background because we don't have the time. But suffice it to say, I've done this all over the planet. And with one place I did it was in Nashville with 500 evangelical Christians. And they were kind enough to do it. So I'm assuming that you liberal Theosophists will do it. So what we need you need a partner. I'm going to explain it to you first. So you're going to have to find a partner. And what you're going to do, because this is the name of God written vertically. And your body is, I don't know if any of you have done this with me before, but your body is the name of God. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw, not literally, but we're going to draw the name of God on your body. Your partner is. And then you'll switch. In order to awaken you to your own divinity. When it says in Genesis 1:26 that you're in the image of God, the Kabbalists, the mystics say that your body is the name of God. Right? You can see it there. The top letter is the Yud, that's your head. The Hey is your shoulders and your arms. The Vav is your torso. And the bottom Hey is your pelvis and your legs. Your body is the four-letter name of God. But we forget that. And the body of everyone you see. Now they say every blade of grass has the same shape. It's like the spiritual DNA of all things. But we're just looking at people for the moment. So we're going to do this with our fingers. So you need a partner. So let's try that first. If you don't want to do this at all, then just don't do it. But see if you can find someone you can do this with. And if you can do it standing, that's good. And I know you have I say don't try this at home, but you could try this at home. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll do the best you can. So it's easier if you can do it standing, but if you can't, you can't. Now I'm going to walk you through it. Okay, so you don't need the pamphlets, you don't need anything. I'm just going to walk you through it. The hardest part, besides not talking, the hardest part is to decide which one of you is person A and which one of you is person B. So decide who's A and who's B. Okay, you should be done deciding now. All right. So person B will receive and person A will draw. Now, person B as the receiver, if you don't mind being touched by the finger of person A, fine. If you do mind, then let person A know so they don't touch you. And if you don't mind, you're going to close your eyes for the exercise. If you do mind, then keep your eyes open so you can see what person A is doing and you can imagine what's happening. But if you don't mind, close your eyes and you'll feel it. So, okay? So person B Person B as the receiver. Just want you to stand comfortably, your feet shoulder width apart, hands at your sides. Just take a couple of deep breaths and try to just relax into the floor a little bit. Person A, you can do the same thing. All you want to do is really just follow the instructions. You want to get out of the way as much as possible. So person B, if your eyes are closed or if you're watching, but you're just going to receive this. Person A, I'm just going to walk you through it. So the first letter of God's name is a yud. It's like the number 7. You're going to start at, like you're drawing a 7, you're going to start at the forehead, and you go across the forehead, then back along the tip of the nose down to the chin, like you're drawing a number 7. Across the forehead, and then, right down the tip of the nose to the chin. The second letter of God's name is a hey. You put 2 fingers at the sternum, 2 fingers with, finger of both hands. So 2 hands, like this, you can see me. And then you're going to go across the sternum and then down the arms to the fingers. So person B, you've received the first 2 letters of God's name, the Yud and the Hey. That is a name of God already. That's the name Yah. It's like in the word hallelujah. Hallelujah means praise. Yah is God. So imagine you're emerging into this God consciousness. Your head, shoulders, and arms are already awakening to the divine that is you. Third letter of God's name is a Vav. You start at the sternum again, 1 finger, and you go down to the waist. And then the fourth letter, it's again with 2 hands. You start at the center of the waist, and you go across to the hips, and then, if you can do it, down the side of the leg to the floor. And if you can't get all the way down, don't worry about it. They get the idea. So, person A, stand, feet shoulder width apart, eyes closed, just center yourself. Person B, try to realize what gift you were given, that your body, your head, shoulders, arms, torso, pelvis, hips, legs, feet, your body is the name of God. You are the image of God. Now, I'm going to ask person B to open their eyes, and you're going to draw on person A. I'm going to walk you through it the same way. So the first letter is a yud. It's a number 7. It goes across the forehead, and then back down the nose, across the lips, down to the chin. That's the yud. So person B, you're receiving this, right? I got that right? So your head is the name of God. So second letter is the Hey, 2 fingers, 1 from each hand. With the sternum, you go across the shoulders and then down to the fingertips. And that's the holy name Yah, hallelujah, praise God. So just take a second and feel the divine awakening, not in your body, as your body. You are a unique expression of this infinite divine energy. Third letter is a Vav, 1 finger at the sternum, right down to the waist. And then the final letter, 2 fingers at the center of the waist, and you draw them across to the hips, side of the hips, and then all the way down the legs to the floor if you can get there. And then if you can both just stand the way you were before, with your eyes closed, reconnecting to the fact that your body is the four-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He. So you are the image of God. So try to keep that in mind. Take a seat, and I'll just wrap this up. So it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, God says, I'm going to create people in the divine image and likeness. In the very next verse, God creates people in God's image, but not the likeness. And the rabbis say, what happened to likeness? So from the mystical tradition, we're taught that your body is the image. Being the image is a given. Being the likeness is a choice. Wow. When you realize that you are a manifesting of the divine, the aliveness, the Shekhinah, and then you can Shiviti Shekhinah Lenegdi Tamid, when you can see the divine as the other and engage the other, the divine meeting the divine, then the likeness is present. There's no exploitation. The divine meets the divine. Then you've brought the likeness alive. So if you will indulge me for one more second, we're going to close, because I don't want to lose the moment and go to questions. I can do that in a second. But let's close the way we opened and bring the song back. So if you need find it on the back of the paper. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? If not the holy blessed one. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I did it, I did it, I did I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? If not the holy blessed one. Thank you.
Yod He Vav He is usually or quite frequently called a name of God, but you've talked about it as a verb.
Right.
Are there any verb form names of God, any translations that really work? I mean, I've heard Lord and Jehovah and things like that, but...
Yeah, I don't know of any. You all heard the question, right? I don't know of any because it's so awkward. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, the answer is I don't know. I wish I could come up, if anybody can come up with one, ising, but it doesn't, you can't, and ising said, it doesn't work. So I don't know. I wish there were.
The happening.
Well, the happening. That's what I use. The happening is all happening. But it's not, what?
Wait.
He said, what about becoming? Yeah, maybe that would, gerunds maybe work better than verbs. I don't know. But it's awkward, and people just get hung up on that Lord thing. Anything that isn't masculine is better than Lord.
I have a comment. When you started your presentation, you said, "We are not our stories." That's really hard for me to let go of, because that's who I am. I mean, that's how I identify myself.
Sure, me too.
And so to let go of that,
Yeah, no, Risa, that's great. I thank you. I mean, I'm my story too. I mean, the whole introduction was my story, right? I mean, without my story, I don't get Social Security. So yeah, this is how I understand it for myself. Well, first of all, have you ever been, even for a moment, without your story? I mean, I've had experiences when I don't have my story. I'm not there anymore. Rami's gone, right? I equate that with some kind of mystical something or other. But then Rami comes back. And I don't think that's bad. This is the way it was explained to me. When I start out in the spiritual work, I don't know if everyone knows this analogy, but I start out as a slice of Velveeta cheese. You know Velveeta cheese? It's thick, waxy orange. I don't even know if it's real dairy, but it's just thick cheese. But as you move through the spiritual process, you're more like Swiss cheese. You know, it's got all these holes in it, but there's still a frame, because otherwise you can't function, right? So it's holding your story lighter and lighter and lighter. But ultimately, I know that Rami is the stories, but I'm not just Rami. So if you'll indulge me, because I love this question, I think it's really important. So what happens to Rami when I die? So I'll tell you two quick things. The other day, my 7.5-year-old grandson and I play all these games. And we have all these characters that I invented as he was growing up. And we were playing them, and one of them is this, remember when your fingers do the walking through the yellow pages? So one of them is this guy he calls Exploding Man. And Exploding Man walks around and explodes and tickles him. And he laughs. And I said to him the other day, I said, how come Exploding Man never dies? Because he explodes. Why does he always come back? And my grandson's name is Jack. And Jack says, Exploding Man can't die. I said, why not? He says, no, he just can't die. In fact, he says, when you die, he doesn't die. I said, how can that be? He goes, no, when you die, he comes to me. He goes, because he's a story, and I get him, and I can do him. So I used to teach little kids, and I would teach them about death with a rope. And I would give each little kid being like my grandson's age, give them a piece of rope. If you want to try this, use cotton rope, not nylon rope, because it hurts their fingers. So you give them a piece of rope, and you tie a knot in the rope. And I'd say, let's talk about the relationship between the rope and the knot. I mean, the rope is the knot. The knot is the rope. So there's no, I don't even know if there's a relationship. It's just one is the other. The knot is the rope. So, okay, let's tie a second knot in the rope. Let's compare knots. So one is a little older than the other one. One's a little tighter, looser, whatever, different spots on the rope. Then I say, let's name them. So, because we're talking about death, I would say, this first knot that I tied is my grandmother, and the second knot is me. So my grandmother's dead. So I'm going to untie the knot. Where does she go? Right? Nowhere, because she was the rope. I don't miss the rope. I miss the story, the knot that I associated with my grandmother. The story matters, yeah? Either positively or negatively, but I love my grandmother, so I'm going to say positively. The story matters. I miss my grandmother. I miss the knot. I miss the story she would tell. I miss her smell. I miss her cooking. I miss all these things. But where did she go? Nowhere. Because she wasn't anything other than the rope. She was just a configuration, a story of the rope. So the stories matter, but if I thought all she was her stories, and the stories are gone, I'm devastated. But if I know she's the rope that tells stories, then I can still resonate with the stories because they're in the rope, and I'm still the rope, and the rope never goes away. I don't know if that helps. So I'm not saying stories don't matter, but the extent to which we only identify with the story is the extent, well, this sounds stupid, that we get tied up in knots. but that's just being clever. But is the extent to which we miss our greater reality. So I'm not dissing story, but story isn't the whole story. Yeah.
Question. Rabbi Rami, can you please elaborate on how the Jews are a chosen people of God and how it is to work for feeling the unity?
Okay, so I guess that's two questions. The first one's really easy. The Jews are the chosen people the same way Coke is the real thing. It's marketing. It's marketing. Jews are the chosen people. Only Christians are saved. Muslims are true believers. Everyone else is an infidel. It's all marketing. So don't believe any of that crap. So if you're hung up on chosen versus not chosen, saved versus damned, no, you can't. That's why religion is never the path to unity. Religion is... Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Because knowing what you truly believe, you're going to hell. But, no, religion is not the answer. Religion is the problem. Yes. All right? And you're going to hell too. So that's it. But all my friends are in hell. So, no, religion is the problem. Religion is the problem because religion is divisive. Religion is all about breaking people up into warring camps. And then within the religions, they break themselves into warring camps, right? And mostly they only agree upon they hate women. So that's the only thing they have. That's where unity comes from. All the men hate all the women. So no, religion is religious unity. You know who doesn't hate anybody? The mystics. So my hope is not in religion. I don't think religions ever get along because then the people in power will lose their jobs. I like the mystics. I have spent my life hanging out with Father Thomas Keating, with Matthew Fox, with, tomorrow with Jamal Rahman. There are great mystics from every religious tradition who have transcended the divisiveness of their religions, even if they're loyal to them, even if they love them. I love Judaism. I don't like the institutions. I don't like the structures. I don't like the divisiveness. No, you can't get religious unity. You can get mystic unity. That's why I love the Theosophical Society. Hear, hear.